Hey guys, how you doing? Dr. Nathan Thompson here, and today I want to go over with you a awesome topic that is going to help a lot of people. Let me put this. So, hey, happy Wednesday. We're halfway through the week, and let me hold on just a little bit to let some people jump on. All right, guys, so today we're going to go over a topic that produces a lot of emotion, and this is the topic of cholesterol. So is cholesterol your friend, or is it some kind of villain? Now, this is particularly true in people over 60 years of age. Is so many people that are taking drugs to try to lower their cholesterol. So what I want to go over with you today is to not even give you my opinion, but to actually just give you the facts so that you can make an informed choice, that you can use your own thinking, that you can use your intelligence that God gave you so that you can start making the right decisions when it comes to cholesterol. And the question always comes up is, should I be on a cholesterol lowering drug? And I'm going to go over with you over the next few minutes just some interesting research. And we're going to talk a lot about this coming up at our cholesterol talk a week from Saturday, April 6th, I believe, from 9 o'clock to 11 o'clock. And we're going to show you the right kind of testing to truly see what your risk is of having a heart attack or having a stroke. All right. So cholesterol, is it a friend or is it a villain? Well, just remember there's this really cool principle in chiropractic, and it's called the character of innate forces. And basically, a summary of the character of innate forces means that anything that the body does is never intended to hurt you, injure you, or destroy you. You guys understand that? And that when you start thinking that way, then really your body is not trying to kill you. It's trying to adapt. It's trying to survive as much as possible. That's just an inborn mechanism. So when you start looking at it differently, and when you start seeing issues with blood pressure, cholesterol, things like that, the question you have to ask is, you have to ask a very simple question. Why is my body adapting in this way? Why is it trying to live longer? Why is it trying to adapt? And then that will lead you down the right path of getting better. So getting better many times is just starting off by asking the right questions. So when I say cholesterol, a lot of times people will, they get very afraid, as if cholesterol is some kind of bad guy. This actually comes directly from the American Heart Association, the ones that actually recommend a lot of cholesterol medication. So what they actually say here is they say that it may surprise you to know that cholesterol itself isn't bad. In fact, cholesterol is just one of the many substances created and used by our bodies to keep us healthy. So first and foremost, it's been established by the American Heart Association that cholesterol isn't necessarily bad. And in fact, you need cholesterol in order to be healthy. So why are we vilifying cholesterol? Now, here's a reason why cholesterol is actually good. So if you look at, for example, cholesterol, why do you need cholesterol? What is it actually used for? Number one, you have 73 trillion cells inside your body, and every single one of those cells has what's known as a cell membrane. They call this a lipid bilayer. So when they're measuring your cholesterol, they measure HDL and LDL, for example. Well, what that's called is a high-density lipoprotein, or a low-density lipoprotein, and lipo means fat. So if you look at the cell membrane is called a lipid bilayer. It is 2 layers of fat. So in order for you just to have healthy fats or have healthy cells, you need cholesterol. And in fact, when you read a lot of research, because everyone actually is saying it's your genes, it's your genes, it's your genes, and that the genes are the brain of the cell, in actuality, it's the cell membrane that's the brain of the cell, because the cell membrane is what is responsible for what goes in and what goes out that then influences genetic expression. Number two, you need cholesterol for brain function and memory. Imagine that you need cholesterol for brain function and memory. So if you look at the total mass of the brain, it only makes up about 2% of our total mass. But guess what? 20% of the brain is made up of cholesterol. So in order for you to have a healthy brain, you need healthy levels of cholesterol. What's interesting is that you're seeing a lot of people who are having issues with brain fog, that are having issues with dementia, that are having issues with Alzheimer's type symptoms. And a lot of these things can be looked back at as some kind of heavy metal or aluminum toxicity, chronic brain inflammation, or if you strip the body from its literally 20% of its brain mass by artificially lowering cholesterol, you're going to have some problems with dementia. And believe me, there are so many people who come to me and said, Doc, as soon as I went on this cholesterol lowering medication, I started to or my parents even started to have problems with dementia. Once they got off of it, it actually, their brain function started to come back. So cholesterol is absolutely needed in brain development. If you look at breast milk is very high in cholesterol. And the reason why is because baby needs a lot of cholesterol for brain development. So imagine that. So imagine a high cholesterol food is needed by babies. It's also really important with nerve function. And in fact, if you look at the outside of the nerve is covered by what's known as a myelin sheath. And this helps to transmit what's known as an action potential, so that the nerve firing can actually go much quicker. So myelinated nerves are very, very quick. And in fact, your spinal cord has myelin. If you think of an instance where an autoimmune disease, which the body attacks its own myelin, that's called multiple sclerosis. So 20% of the myelin sheath around your spinal cord and some of the nerves inside your body contain cholesterol. You also need cholesterol for vitamin D synthesis. This is important for immunity. This is important for muscle function. This is important for actually 1,500 different genetic functions inside of the cell that's needed, that is needed with vitamin D. It's also needed for digestion. And in fact, as cholesterol gets processed, goes out to the cells and then comes back, it's actually used by the liver to make bile salts. And you need these bile salts to actually digest fats specifically. Bile also helps to remove toxins into the gastrointestinal system. And then finally, you need cholesterol. I'm going to show you this in a second. You need cholesterol to make up your stress hormones and your sex hormones. This includes testosterone. This includes cortisol, which is a stress hormone. This is also your estrogens and your progesterone. So you need cholesterol. So obviously we know that cholesterol is absolutely needed. Now, why on earth did people start blaming cholesterol for heart disease? This actually started back into the 1950s. And so they actually, when they would see people, because the amount of heart disease back in the 1940s and 50s started to explode. So it wasn't genetic then. It was something that we were doing that was creating heart disease inside of the body. So when they started looking at this, one of the things they started to see is when someone died of a heart attack and they would go in and look at their blood vessels around the heart, lo and behold, they would see a big bundle of cholesterol that was causing plaquing. So they made the conclusion, well, it must be the cholesterol then. And it must be the consumption of eating a high-fat diet, and it must be consuming a lot of cholesterol in your diet. The problem is that way of thinking wasn't correct. Hashtag, I disagree. I disagree with that way of thinking. And here's the reason why. It's like saying this. You come onto the scene of an accident and you see skid marks. Therefore, you deduce that skid marks cause car accidents. So just because the presence is there doesn't necessarily mean that it's causing it. So obviously, it's not the skid marks that are causing a car accident, and obviously, it's not the cholesterol that's causing the heart disease. And in fact, what's causing the cholesterol to deposit and lay down is something much different. It's actually an inflammatory process, and the body trying to heal it and adapt and help you live longer. So the reality is that cholesterol is not the bad guy. Cholesterol is actually the healing mechanism for many different functions inside of the body. Now, what about cholesterol and heart attack risk? So you say, well, I'm on a cholesterol lowering medication because I want to lower my risk of having a heart attack. Well, let's assume that it's not true. Let's say that cholesterol has nothing to do with your heart attack risk. And the reason why is that this is not an opinion. This comes from a 2001 study called the Honolulu Heart Program. And this was a study over 20 years. And they literally measured thousands of people. Here's what they found. A 20-year study, they actually found that there was an increased mortality or death in those with low cholesterol levels. And in fact, long-term low cholesterol levels increases their risk of death. Now, their interpretation, because they went into the study assuming that high cholesterol would cause you to die early, and one of the things that they found is this what they said: we have been unable to explain our results. We don't know why this is, because we thought it was the other way around. And not only that, they said, by this research, we cannot justify giving people, trying to artificially lower people's medication based on this 20-year study of looking at thousands and thousands and thousands of people. So the reality is cholesterol is needed, and cholesterol does not actually cause heart disease. Well, when you look at it, here's how you kind of know this. So what about statin drugs? So some people will actually say, oh my goodness, well, I'm going to take this statin drug anyway because I want to lower my heart attack risk. Well, if it's already been concluded that high cholesterol really has nothing to do, just that cholesterol number has nothing to do with your mortality or your heart attack risk. In fact, there's even research that shows that high cholesterol helps you to live longer, because high cholesterol is an adaptation to help you because that means the body needs it to heal and to be able to repair. So what happens when you lower cholesterol drugs? See, the problem is that people will say, hey, you know what? It's working because my cholesterol is going down. Well, with cholesterol lowering drugs, they don't actually lower cholesterol. They inhibit liver function. So think of that. They don't lower cholesterol. They inhibit a specific enzyme in the liver that makes it impossible for the liver to make cholesterol. Here's what also is inhibited: the production of CoQ10, which is needed for energy within the cells, including muscle function, which is why people's muscles many times hurt terribly when they're taking a statin drug. So what about statin drugs? So do they lower cholesterol? Yes, but cholesterol is not the reason why you have heart disease. So what they actually looked at is they said, well, does it in fact, taking a cholesterol lowering medication, does it in fact lower your heart attack risk? So here's what they found. And this actually came from a huge study that they looked at, research from Business Week, but this was actually 11 years ago. And guess what? It's never been refuted. Here's what they found in this Business Week article. 0%. So 0% of people, it benefited. 0% of anyone over 65 years of age, 0% in women, and 0% reduction in total deaths in anyone. Meaning it did not reduce deaths in anyone. I mean, listen, the reason why you take cholesterol lowering drugs is because you don't want to die from a heart attack, but it had a 0% reduction in total deaths. No benefit in women whatsoever as far as preventing a heart attack, and zero benefit whatsoever in anyone over age 65. Now, there was a very specific group of people that it actually helped to prevent a heart attack and stroke. The only problem is, depending on which study you're looking, there has to be 70 to 250 people taking this medication for 2 years to prevent one heart attack and one stroke. All right. And then depending on this one specific demographic, which is going to be middle-aged men, 44 to 55 years of age, 500 people needed to be on this medication, 500 men specifically, for 2 years to prevent one death. Now, this is the research. So the research actually says, again, this isn't even my opinion. What this says and what this means is that literally the success rate of taking a statin drug is 0.05% to reduce your chance or that would be 0.02. Anyway, way under 1% to prevent a death. Now, if you can imagine this, if with me seeing patients and using not alternative methods, using methods that are tried and true and that actually honor the inherent body's ability to heal and be able to adapt and work with the body, not against it, you have to understand is that if I don't have 100% success rate, that I'm called a quack. But this success rate is 0.02%. So if you can imagine, I walked into the room and said, hey, we're going to recommend this course of care for you. And by the way, the chances of it helping you are 0.02%. I don't think I would have very many patients actually trying it. So that is the research when it comes to statin drugs. Now, if you don't believe me, actually go onto the actual website. When you look at, for example, some of the most popular ones that, over the last 15 or 20 years, Lipitor and Crestor. So if you actually read their own research and what they actually admit is that they admit this, that Lipitor has not been shown to prevent heart disease or heart attacks. And Crestor said that it has not been determined to prevent heart disease, heart attacks, or strokes. So they actually say that it doesn't reduce heart attack. Now, will it lower cholesterol? Yes, but it hasn't been shown to prevent heart disease, heart attacks, or even strokes. Now, let me show you this. So I want you to look at this, and guys, you can actually Google this. This is called the steroid hormone pathway. This is why taking statin drugs absolutely destroy your hormones. And here's the reason why. All you have to do is, again, Google the steroid hormone pathway, and I have it on here actually for you. So in order for you to produce women progesterone, men testosterone, estrogens down here, and cortisol, which is a stress hormone, guess what the primary component of it is cholesterol. So if you are inhibiting the production of cholesterol, you will interfere with progesterone, your stress hormones, and also men, your testosterone. Don't worry though, because they have erectile dysfunction drugs for you. And by the way, check out when cholesterol lowering medications came out, check out when they started having drugs for erectile dysfunction. Men, if you don't have testosterone, you will have no energy, you will be depressed, you will not want to have sex, and you will not be able to burn fat or build muscle. And you will not have very much motivation to do anything. A lot of men have problems with that. So what are some better tests? There are better tests that you can do out there that will look at your heart attack risk with a lot more accuracy. The first one is C-reactive protein. This is an inflammatory test because, again, in order for cholesterol to get embedded into the arteries, it really is all about inflammation inside of the body. Two great tests for inflammation are going to be C-reactive protein. Another one is going to be homocysteine. Now, also, we found that homocysteine is going to be chronically elevated and very high in people who have the MTHFR gene mutation. So their levels of homocysteine are usually through the roof. And this is actually why research actually shows that having adequate levels of B vitamins can lower your heart attack risk quite a bit. And also having adequate levels of omega-3 fatty acids too. Very simple things that you can do. However, you always want to test and see exactly what you need. Now, the other one too is that what they don't measure is not how much cholesterol you have, but how big is the cholesterol or how small is the cholesterol. So here's what we know. We know that the smaller the cholesterol particle size, the more likely it is to actually get through and go underneath the very small layer called the endothelial layer of your arteries to be able to go down, produce an inflammatory response, and get that plaquing. So it's kind of like a tennis ball. A tennis net will stop a tennis ball, but a tennis net won't stop a golf ball, which means the smaller it is, the more likely it is to create plaquing inside of your arteries. So CRP, homocysteine, and analyzing cholesterol particle size is going to be much, much more important than your total cholesterol and your low density lipoproteins and your high density lipoproteins. Guys, there's better tests that are out there. And just remember, cholesterol is not the bad guy. Inflammation is the bad guy, and the cholesterol is the adaptation to it. So upcoming, we're going to be doing a talk in a lot more detail about this on called Cholesterol, Medicine's Biggest Scapegoat. And this is going to be Saturday, April 6th, 9 to 11 a.m. at here at Exemplify Health Center in Yorkville, Illinois. You guys can register for it. I'll leave the link in the comments, exemplifyhealth.eventbrite.com. This is free to attend. And what I also want you to do for this event is bring your, if you have it, bring your blood work so that you can see, we'll go through what some of these cholesterol markers actually mean, because chances are the only thing that you have are triglycerides, high density lipoproteins, low density lipoproteins. You usually have only those three, and total cholesterol. So you're only going to have those 3 or 4 on that testing, but we're going to show you about 12 different things that will give you a better picture as far as what your true risk is of having heart disease, and how you start uncovering some of these areas of inflammation, so that essentially we're doing the right thing. We're helping you not be stressed about having a heart attack or stroke, and we're helping you lower your risk as much as possible. Have a question, leave a comment, or send me a message. And if you have any other topics that you would like to know about, send me a message or leave a comment so that we can know what to do in the future. So remember, cholesterol is your friend. It's not the bad guy. Make sure, though, that you get registered for the cholesterol event coming up in a week and a half, April 6th. We look forward to seeing you there. Have a great Wednesday, guys. Be well. And remember, the body never makes mistakes. It's you who are making the mistakes. And we have to figure out how to stop making the mistakes. Have a